in the UAE on the Arab Spring. He was arrested as he left Dubai airport in May of this year. He's spent some of his time in solitary confinement, but 2 days ago he was taken to court and was told in a 5-minute hearing, all in Arabic without a lawyer present, that he was guilty of espionage and he would be spending the rest of his life behind bars in Dubai. Now, the Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, has said he is very concerned and called in on the UAE's ambassador in London for a very frank conversation. This morning we've had a statement from the authorities in the UAE, which they insisted they do respect the rule of law and uphold the highest judicial standards. But they've also said that officials from both countries have discussed the matter. Both sides hope to find an amicable solution to the Matthew Hedges case. So is there hope that there will be a chance of freedom for Matthew Hedges? Let's talk about this with Dr. Alan Mendoza. He's founder and the executive director of the Henry Jackson Society. Good morning to you, Alan.
Good morning, Julia.
Now, your organisation sort of campaigns against extremism and the like, but in this issue, we are dealing with a country that, well, it is an extraordinary a country, the United Arab Emirates, a group of Emirates grouped together with rather different laws and judicial processes from us. However, there is a lot of hope that almost because of that, and because we know that they don't really have an independent judiciary, independent justice system, there is more hope that political pressure can help. Is there any chance of Matthew's freedom going to come about because of diplomatic pressure or because of diplomatic niceties? What's the best way for the Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, to play this?
Well, I think as usual, it's a mixture of carrot and stick that's going to be required to extract Mr. Hedges back to the UK. It would seem to me that obviously this case is rather curious because we've enjoyed a very good relationship with the UAE for some time, for many years now, in terms of trading and defence relations. It seems that as this case was progressing through the UAE's judicial system, or whatever you want to call it, assurances were given that it wouldn't end up in the way it's ended up. So, and of course, now it's become public. There's huge embarrassment, I think, on both sides. The SCO looks like it's been caught short, and of course the UAE appear to have been mendacious in their statement. So there's clearly an incentive for both sides to get to a good result here. But the whole thing is rather perplexing in terms of the nature of the crimes alleged and indeed the process that was followed to get him into jail. Well,
indeed. I mean, look, you and I don't know what Matthew Hedges is doing there. However, there are an awful lot of academics who do know him, know that he is he's a 31-year-old British PhD student. He's travelled many times, done lots of research, published research in this field. No question at all that he was legitimate. Obviously, the UAE authorities became concerned. Now, the question is whether there was genuine concern for them that this wasn't just about research and this was espionage, or this is actually about something completely different, and this is actually a deliberate ploy to effectively use a British national as a leverage over the British government, because we know there's been a lot of pressure on the United Arab Emirates and also on Saudi Arabia, their larger neighbour, to stop the bombing in Yemen of civilians. Thousands and thousands of civilians have died in that proxy war with Iran. They've also got a dispute with Qatar as well. There's a whole lot of regional battles and battles between various different Muslim factions that's going on inside the Middle East. It would appear that Matthew Hedges has somehow wandered into the middle of that.
Well, yes. I mean, I don't think they're necessarily using him as leverage in the Yemen case or things like that. The UAE's role is different to the Saudis there, and of course we have a very different relationship with the UAE and the Saudis. I think, though, you may be onto something with this idea he stumbled onto something. His field of studies, or he was there to study security policy. Now, it may be that in the course of his studies, he's uncovered something that the UAE would rather not be known about. It might be a secret deal here or there. It might be working with various parties they shouldn't be working with. Something I'm obviously just speculating here, but it would seem a very, very strange outcome had he not rattled their cage in some way through the work he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a concern when working in a country like that, isn't it? But I mean, one of the difficulties I think a lot of us have understanding this is that we've got good diplomatic relations with the United Arab Emirates. They are one of our allies. We have a military cooperation with them. We sell them lots of weapons. It's very different, we would hope, from the situation with Iran, with Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, where she's obviously a British-Iranian dual nationality citizen. Iranians don't recognise dual nationality, so as far as they're concerned, she's Iranian, end of story. story. But we have very poor relations with Iran, and have done for many years. So perhaps more difficult to get sort of diplomatic messages across, shall we say, in the right way. But given that we are supposed to be dealing with a close ally here, I suppose a lot of us are surprised that this issue hasn't been resolved more amicably, as the UAE is suggesting already. Because certainly when the news emerged that Matthew Hedges had been sentenced to life behind bars, the Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, expressed a note of surprise, because he'd clearly been given assurances that this wasn't going to be how it ended up.
Well, it's interesting you bring in the Iran case. The Iran case is a simple shakedown, pure and simple. The Iranians want cash from us in exchange for releasing, our dual nationals.
To be fair, they want their own cash. Is it £400 million? It's their own cash.
It's the sort of the legacy of the Shah's arms deals, and the interest. There's a dispute over the interest over that money, which is what's causing that. So that's a pure shakedown. That's obvious what they're after. And it actually doesn't need too much discussion, because we're either going to pay or we're not going to pay. That's the sort of nature of how this works. The UAE case is more complicated. It doesn't appear obvious as to what they want from this and what's been going on. Obviously, we're not privy. You and I are not privy to what's been going on behind closed doors, what discussions have been had. But unless they reveal exactly what they're after, it's very difficult for us, I think, to respond and work out whether it's something we can give or something we're not prepared to give in exchange for this, for the relief. It may be, as I said, that they want his silence. Well, we don't silence academics in this country. That is not something the British government, I'm sure, will not in the way that.
Yes, I'm saying.
I know you're going.
I think we are in that territory, but yes, not in the way, as you say.
What I mean, not governments don't silence academics and say you can't say what you want.
Is there also an element where, look, we have good diplomatic relations with Dubai and the UAE, partly because they buy an awful lot of stuff from us. We sell an awful lot of arms to them. They also, the authorities there own most of Mayfair in central London. They've got billions of pounds invested in our capital city as well. And isn't actually it's money that talks rather than a 31-year-old PhD student? And actually, this is all going to rely on his wife Daniela getting out on those TV screens, on the radio stations, in the newspapers, and insisting that action is taken. Because otherwise, the government's quite happy to sort of forget about these people, to have the key, turn the key, throw it away, and as long as they're not on the front page of the papers, they're quite happy to forget, because Donald Trump has exposed all this, hasn't he? One of the few things he doesn't lie about is the realpolitik of international relations, which is basically you can be as nasty and tyrannical a regime as you want to be, but as long as you spend a lot of money on Western arms and other goods, we're not really that bothered what you do.
Well, it is a slightly different case in point when you're jailing sort of British citizens or American citizens in that case in point. Look, we had an example, really, you mentioned Donald Trump, where Donald Trump effectively did a deal with President Erdogan of Turkey to get an American pastor who'd been jailed for spurious reasons out of Turkey. These things happen all the time in terms of the disputes. What is surprising, though, is that the UAE have gone down this route, given we're such good allies. The nature of the trading relationship, and it is both ways. It's not just one way. We sell things to them, they sell things to us. The defence relationship, the fact that we've really had good relations ever since they were independent of Britain in 1971. This is what's surprising about this case, and why, as you say, Jeremy Hunt was so surprised. And I think that they will feel a bit of force the other way now to say, look, we've always been good allies. You've not made it clear what you want from this case. Come and talk to us. Let's sort this out and let the guy out of jail back home.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alan Mendoza. 9:16 is the time. Coming up, we're going to be talking to the author of a new book.